I'm Anastasia Chatzka. I'm a fashion designer, pattern maker, and sewing educator, and I'm so happy you're here sewing along with me today. So you've taken tons of measurements, you've done tons of pattern drafting work, you created your sloper bodice, you did the fittings, you did all the alterations to it, and now it fits you perfectly. And today we are going to use it to create a summer dress that is going to fit you perfectly because you went through all of that hard work of making a perfect sloper fit you. So now it's time to start designing your own wardrobe. Welcome to the exciting part. So today I'm gonna show you how to turn your sloper bodice into a super cute, simple dress that you can sew up in just a few hours. Even if you haven't made your sloper bodice yet, you're gonna wanna check out this whole video because it is so cool the way we take a sloper bodice and turn it into a super cute dress. And I really think that watching this video is gonna inspire you to make your own sloper bodice. So let's get started. You're probably wondering, what is this dress gonna look like that we're going to create today? Well, I'm gonna sketch it out for you and go over all the little details for the pattern drafting of it. That's the cool part about having the sloper bodice is that we can design anything. So we are going to start designing a wardrobe together, and today we are starting out with a super fun, simple summer dress. I'm just gonna do a quick little sketch here so we can get a rough idea of what we're going to create. Okay, so I want a waist seam because we have that bodice with a waist, and I want to do a scoop neck. We're going to do a little bit of a shoulder. We're going to come out, and now what are we going to do with the darts? Let's move the darts over to the side. Let's do something a little bit interesting. Let's make them go up to the center. And then we are going to do a gathered skirt. So we'll have some gathers coming out of the waist, and there we go. Let's give our little lady some arms, and we're ready to make a dress. So there are 4 things we need to take into consideration when designing this. We are dropping the neck, we are shortening the shoulder, we are changing the darts, and we are adding a skirt to it to create a dress. So our major alterations to this pattern are taking place around the neck. So we need to know what the measurement is from the base of your neck to how deep you want your scoop. And then we need to know from the side of the neck to what point are we scooping out on the shoulder, and how wide is your shoulder strap going to be over here. So we need those 2 measurements, from base of the neck to how deep your neckline is, and from the base of the neck to where is your shoulder strap going to start. So I'm going to show you exactly how to find how deep you want your neckline and how far in you want to come over for your shoulder. I'm going to be demoing this on the dress form so it's nice and easy to see, but totally put this on yourself, go to the mirror, and chalk it all up. So I'm gonna start with center front. So you're gonna go at the base of your neck, and then you're gonna see how low do you want the very deepest part of your scoop. You might only want it to 3 inches, you might want it to 6 inches. I think I'm gonna go to 5 inches. So I'm gonna put a little mark here just so you can see it. So we're gonna be getting rid of all of this fabric in here. And then how wide do I want my straps? I know I want my straps 2 inches wide, but where do we want them to start? So at the shoulder here, I'm gonna put my tape measure up. I'm gonna come 2 inches over from the side of the neck. I want a 2-inch strap. So I'm gonna put another mark. That means I'm gonna have to get rid of 1 3/4 inches at the shoulder here on the outside and 2 inches on the inside at the neck. And you might be wondering, what about the back? Well, I'm also going to be coming down 5 inches in the back. And you could make this any measurement you like though. So, down 5 inches from that back neck. And that's how far our scoop is going to go on the back. So now that we have those measurements, we are ready to start pattern drafting and changing up our pattern. So let's make this bodice happen. I'm going to be using a Sharpie today so that way you can see everything really nice, but please do not use a Sharpie when you are pattern drafting. It is really thick, so it's gonna make everything bigger than it should be. Use a really nice fine point pencil. So let's make the cutest summer dress ever that is going to fit you perfectly. So the first thing we need to do is trace out our slopers. I'm going to be tracing out the front sloper and the back sloper. So you always just want to weight it down so it doesn't move on you, and you want to trace it out with your pencil. If you have any notches, make sure you mark your notches or mark the bottom of your dart legs, because we're going to have to draw in our dart legs. Mark your dart tip, and then let's make sure that marked. Okay, great. So we can remove our front. Now what we want to do is draw in our dart. Excellent. Let's just straighten out center front. Make sure it's nice and straight. Straighten out our side seam. Straighten out our shoulder. Excellent. We are looking great. You always want to mark your patterns as well. So center front, unfold. Okay, now we get to make our neckline. So we are going to come down 5 inches from the base of the neck here. So I'm going to put a little mark here for 5. And then we are going to come in 2 inches on the shoulder, which is here. And then I wanted my 2-inch strap. Okay, now you're going to grab your French curve and let's make these meet. So we are going to make the tip of the shoulder that we have and the bottom of our neckline match. We're going to, ooh, getting crazy with the marker over here. We're gonna draw that, and now we can see we have our new neckline here. And now we need to redraw the armhole because we are coming in on the shoulder so we can have that nice 2-inch strap there. That looks pretty good. Okay, and so now we have a new shape for the front of our bodice for our dress. Next, we need to move our dart. So for moving the dart, super easy. You're just gonna draw a line. Where do you want the dart to be? We just have to make sure that it's always connecting with the apex. So if we want it to come over on the side over here and go towards the front, we're going to move it 1 inch away from the side seam that I have here. And go ahead and draw a new line. Now what we're gonna do is cut out our bodice so that way we can fold our dart over here. Okay, so now what we want to do for our dart is we want to close this dart and open up that one. So I am going to cut along this line here so we can open it up. And then I'm going to cut along this line here so that way I can close the dart. I also have a video on moving darts around, so make sure you check that out. Now we're gonna take this dart leg and just move it over here, and we're gonna close it and tape it shut. So by closing this dart up here, it's allowing us to change the design of the bodice. We have taken all the extra fabric that was here in the front dart and moving it over to create a side dart. Now when we do this, we're gonna have to refold the dart underleg, so we're gonna get a different shape over here on the side of the garment. So now that we've closed this dart up, we want to tape it down so that way we can now work with our new dart that we've created. This is a really easy way to move darts around on your pattern. This technique might seem a little strange, but it's really just like magic. It just happens to move the dart over instantly. It is such a cool process, and it is a professional technique that's used in the fashion industry. And if you'd like more information on it, make sure you check out my other video on how to transfer darts. So this is an actual technique, and when you master it, it is so easy to take your dart and move it anywhere you want on the bodice to create a new style line. So now that we have these 2 dart legs taped together, we basically sewn it up with the tape over here. Now we've got this big gap over here. So now what we need to do is tape on some extra paper here so that way we can get our new dart underlay. So I'm gonna take this, we'll rip off our little sketch. We'll keep our sketch for the end. Let's tape on some paper down here. Excellent. So now what we need to do is fold up our dart so we get that really nice dart underlay. So if you remember, you want to take the dart leg that's closest to center front and fold it. Looks like I still need to tape this one down. Okay, so this here is our new dart leg. And so is this one here. So now what we need to do is take the one closest to center front, And we are going to make it match our other dart leg, keeping it nice and smooth. Notice how the waist just lines up perfectly when we do that. It's so nice, right? Just keep it nice and flat. And then I want you to take your pattern wheel and just go right across your waistline. And when you do this, you are gonna end up with a series of little dots, and this is creating your new waistline measurement. You can also take a rotary cutter while it's closed and just cut right over it. So check this out. Okay, so we close this up and make our dart legs line up, and we need to get our new shape for the waist, right? So I'm gonna take my rotary cutter and I'm going to follow the waist with my dart closed. And now when I undo it, this is the new shape of my waist, because that is what it's going to look like when we close it up to have a nice smooth waist. Now that we've moved our dart over on an angle, this is the new shape for our dart underlay. So now that we have the neckline, the armhole, the shoulder, and the dart moved, we can go ahead and cut it out. But don't forget to add a 1/4" seam allowance to your neck and your armhole, because we are going to put a bias facing on there later. So I'm going to mark out my 1/4" seam allowance for the neck right now. And I'm also going to mark out a 1/4" seam allowance for the armhole, because I'm doing a bias facing here with a 1/4" seam allowance. If I was setting it in a sleeve, I'd want to make sure I kept a 1/2" seam allowance for my armhole. And because we used a sloper that already had seam allowance on the shoulder and the side seam, I don't need to worry about the seam allowance there. And we also have the seam allowance in our waist already. So now we can just cut it out. So now we have our front bodice complete, and it is looking great. So let's take a look real quick at how different our pattern looks. So this is our new pattern that we got from our sloper bodice. So if we take it and place it on top, you can see how it is a different shape. Check that out, pretty cool. So now let's move on to the back. And when I do the back, I will also show you how to draw on your seam allowance for a curve. So keep on watching for that special tip. So the first step, as always, is just to trace it out. And you might be wondering, what are we going to do with that shoulder dart? See that shoulder dart there? We are going to get rid of it. Make sure you're marking your dart legs at the waist and your dart tip. Make sure everything transfers. Make sure you mark the dart tip for your shoulder dart. Okay, we've got everything on there. And now we can draw in any lines that need to be trued up. Trued up just means making them nice and straight or curved, however they're supposed to be. Let's draw in our waist dart. Let's draw in our shoulder dart. Excellent. Okay, now we are ready to draw in that neckline. Remember, it's 5 inches down from center back, so I'm doing the same to the back as I did to the front. And at the shoulder, we were going to come in 2 inches from the neckline, which is here. And now, what are we going to do with that dart? Well, the easiest thing to do is measure your dart. How wide is it? Our dart is 3/4, so I'm gonna come in 3/4 on the shoulder here. That's my new tip of the shoulder, and then I am going to straighten out my shoulder line. And now that dart is gone. So our strap was 2 inches, so we're gonna go ahead and put a mark for 2 inches. So our new lines to follow are this one right here and that one right there. So now grab your French curve. Let's redraw in the back armhole. And let's draw the back neck. When you're using the French curve, you want to make sure that it is smoothly touching point to point. So you can see I have the tip of the French curve over here with the shoulder, And then I have the bottom smoothly blending into center back down here. Now that looks awesome. And we are done with the back bodice. So now we can go ahead and cut it out. But first we need to add that seam allowance to the neckline and the armhole. So we're adding our seam allowance 1/4 inch. I want you to line up a 1/4 inch with your pencil line and draw until the ruler moves off that line. Turn your ruler, keep it lined up with that line. And you're just gonna keep drawing until the ruler moves off that line and just keep going. And then you're gonna get a perfect replica of the seam that you have drawn there. Now we're ready to cut out the back bodice, and we have seam allowance everywhere because our pattern already had seam allowance in it when we traced it out. So we have a 1/2 inch at center back, we have a 1/2 inch at the waist, and we have a 1/2 inch at the side seam and the shoulder. And now we have our 1/4 inch at the armhole and the neckline. And now you can see we have our new back bodice. We got rid of that dart up there. We changed our armhole. We changed our neckline. You can see our pattern started with the sloper, and now we have our new style lines. So now that you have everything drawn out for your new pattern, you want to put these together and make sure your side seams line up and they are the same length. So it looks like my front is just a little longer, probably due to using this big chunky marker here. Lots of room for error with using these big chunky markers. So make sure you don't use them. So we're just gonna trim off that little bit there. And then we also want to line up our shoulders and make sure those are the same length as well. Those are looking pretty good. So now we are ready to cut it out of fabric and sew up our cute summer dress. Isn't this process so fascinating? If you are loving this video, make sure you subscribe to Sew Anastasia and hit that notification bell so you know when all the other videos come out. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for watching. Now back to pattern drafting. Now we have our new bodice. We did it. We made a new neckline, made a new armhole, and we moved that dart over. That was pretty crazy, right? So this was so easy, can you believe it? But now we gotta cut it out and sew it together and check it out. We get to really see the magic happen when we go from a plain sloper bodice to a super cute summer dress. So now we're gonna cut everything out. So we need to cut out our bodice and we're gonna cut out a skirt for the dress. Today I'm going to be using just a plain cotton fabric, but it is so awesome because I designed the print and then I had it printed on this fabric. So I am super excited to sew up this dress out of the print I designed. So this is like a full design dress. We designed the pattern, we designed the fabric. You can't get more custom than that. And best of all, it is going to fit like a glove. And if you would like to design your own fabric, make sure you check out my videos on that because it is so easy and fun to do and a great way to customize your wardrobe and your style. So the skirt we're putting on this dress is super simple. All we need to do is measure the length that we want, and then we are just gonna cut giant rectangles, and you can make it as poofy as you want or not as poofy as you want. So we are gonna measure from the waist down, however long you want. I like my skirts pretty short because I'm short. So I'm gonna make it 16 inches long, and then I'm gonna cut 2 widths of the fabric to gather up. So no matter what style you're doing, just make sure you measure your hips, which is gonna be your biggest part down here, and make sure that your fabric's going to be a little bit bigger than that so you can move in it. So the width of my fabric is really short. It's only 37 inches wide. So I'm gonna be cutting 2 of these widths. And this will give me about a medium gather. If you don't want it as gathered, you could just go a few inches bigger than your hips. And if you want it super poofy and gathered, I would go 4 to 6 times your waist measurement. And then you can have a super awesome poofy fluffy dress. So let's start cutting everything out. So I have the front bodice laid out on fold. So center front's gonna be unfold, cut 1, and center back is going to be cut 2 because we're gonna have a center back zipper, and then the rest of the fabric is going to be our skirt. So just work your way all the way around the edge of the paper. We already have seam allowance in this, so you don't need to leave any extra. And now we're all done. Let's take a look at the pieces we cut out of the fabric and talk about what to do next. So we have 2 pieces for center back cut out. We have 2 skirts cut out, and then we have 1 piece for center front cut out on fold. So you can really see that this dress is super simple and easy to make, and it's gonna have great flair because we chose an awesome fabric that we designed. So now what we need to do is mark our darts, sew up the darts, and then we're gonna serge all the edges. First thing I need to do is mark all these darts. We're gonna mark the dart tips, we're gonna mark the bottom of the dart legs, and then you're gonna have those 3 marks on your fabric, and that is what you're looking for. So we're gonna flip it over, do the other back. There we go. Now we're gonna move on to the front. Also, make sure you're marking your darts on the wrong side of the fabric. And if you haven't punched a hole in the tip of your dart and snipped into the bottom of your dart legs or used your notcher, make sure you do that so it's easy to mark your darts. Okay, now we have all of our darts marked and it's time to sew them up. If you're not experienced or familiar with sewing darts, make sure you check out my video on that. And now let's sew up the darts. Don't forget the back stitch at the beginning and the end of all of your darts. There we go, we're done with all of our darts. You can see we have our darts now in the front of our bodice. You can see they're coming up from the side, so they're giving us a little bit more style. They're not just coming up straight from the front. And then we also have our darts on the back. And now what we're gonna do is finish all of our edges. So you can choose to zigzag them, overcast them, serge them. I'm going to be serging all of my edges of the bodice and the skirt, but not the neckline and the armholes because we're going to be putting a bias facing there. So make sure you finish all of your edges except the armholes and the neckline. And we're done serging. We are all serged up, and now it's time to put together the bodice, and I'm gonna show you exactly what you need to do. So we're gonna put our right sides together at the side seam in the shoulders and sew them up at a 1/2 inch because that's what our seam allowance was on the pattern. So right sides together, and we're gonna sew up the side seam, and we are going to sew up this little shoulder here. Same thing on this side, right sides together, and we are going to sew up the side seam and sew up the shoulder here. So let's go sew those up, and we are going to have a bodice. This is so cool. We started pattern drafting this from that sloper, and now we're gonna have a dress. I cannot wait to try this on. Now we're gonna sew up the side seams and the shoulders. Don't forget to back stitch at the beginning and the end of all your seams. Back stitch and cut, and we are done with all of those seams. Our dress is really starting to come together. Check out this bodice for our dress that we are creating. We have a whole new neckline and armholes and everything. Now it's time to work on the skirt. So if you have a bunch of strips that you cut out, it's time to sew those all together so it ends up into one long strip. And now we're going to gather up that really long strip. I'm going to be using the zigzag method for gathering up the waist. If you don't know how to do this, make sure you check out my video on it because it is the best way ever to gather up fabric and not have any stitches break. That's right, no stitches breaking. So make sure you check it out. The link will be down below in the description. So we're gonna gather up the skirt portion before we attach it to the bodice. But that's next, so make sure you keep on watching. For the zigzag method, we are going to put our fabric under the foot. We're gonna hold our top thread. We're going to pull our hand wheel towards us till our bottom thread comes up, our bobbin thread. Where is it? There it is. So you're gonna pull it up, and then you're gonna have 2 threads on the top of your fabric. Sometimes it's a little tricky. Okay, we have our 2 threads. Our fabric is on the bobbin thread. Now what you're gonna do is take both of those threads and pull a bunch of thread out. Maybe like a yard or 2, just to give yourself some thread. And now what you're gonna do is put your thread under your foot, and now you're gonna zigzag over these 2 threads. We're gonna create a channel for these 2 threads so it's easy to gather up. Here we go. So you'll notice I'm zigzagging over those 2 threads. If I pull it, and it cinches up. So as you're gathering this up, you don't have to cinch it while you go. You can leave it flat and cinch it up after as well. The key is really just making sure you pull out enough thread. When you get to the end, cut your thread. Now it's time to attach it to the bodice. Look at how beautiful our zigzag stitch turned out. I am loving it. It looks beautifully gathered in this cotton fabric. So tips and tricks for gathering up this big piece of fabric to fit evenly into the bodice. The first thing I like to do is pin the ends. So I'm going to pin center back on the right, and I'm going to pin center back on the left. Now, if you have any seams in your fabric, I always like to make sure that they're lining up with the side seam. So I'm going to line up the seam in my skirt here with the side seam of my bodice. And I'm going to do that on both sides. Okay, so now that I have the skirt lined up for the back sections and the front sections, now I can gather these up and even it out. So if I turn this around, you can see what I need to fit into the bodice. So this section here needs to fit into the back bodice, this one here into the front, and this one here into the back. So if we need to move the gathers around, make them more gathered, less gathered, etc., now we have the freedom to do that, and we know they're going to be even. So you can always grab the end of your thread that you have from your zigzag and cinch up the fabric more if you need to. We've got a little extra in here, so I can go ahead and cinch this up even though it's pinned to the dress. You can still do it. So we're gonna pull this down. Okay, now it looks like it's fitting the waist of the bodice more. So we can just make everything nice and flat and pin it down. There we go, we are looking great. And since we're gonna have a zipper at center back, make sure you don't have any major gathers at center back that are going to get caught in the zipper when we put it in. Okay, so we have our entire skirt gathered up into our bodice. We are looking great, so now it's time to sew this up from end to end with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Make sure you have your straight stitch set up and make sure you back stitch at the beginning and pull out your pins before you get to them. And let's just work our way all the way down the waist of this dress. Backstitch at the end and cut. Our dress is looking awesome. I love these gathers in the waist. They are so beautiful looking, the way they just flounce out of the waist, and our darts on the side. Love the new style it has. But we still have a few things left to do to finish it up so that way we can try it on. I cannot wait to try this on. One of the most exciting things about designing your own clothes is trying it on at the end and wearing it out and getting compliments on it. It is the best feeling ever. I am so excited to try this dress on, so we are gonna sew this up fast. We're gonna put in that invisible zipper in the back. We are going to put the bias facing around the neck and the armholes, and then we are going to hem it. And if you don't know how to do any of those things, I have links for all those down below, and they're all very detailed, descriptive videos, so that way you can finish up your dress. But I'm gonna whip through these so I can try this dress on. And so you guys can see the finished product of us going from sloper bodice to cute finished summer dress. So let's do it, let's finish these steps up. So I have the invisible zipper that I'm going to be putting here at center back, and I have my black bias tape that I'm going to be putting around the neckline and the armholes. I'm going to be using a bias facing method, and then for the hem, I'm going to be doing a 1/4 inch rolled hem. So let's do these last 3 steps and then try it on. So first, I'm going to be putting in my invisible zipper. Backstitch and cut, and we are all done. So exciting. Let's try it on. Here it is. This is the cute, simple summer dress we made out of our sloper block pattern. Can you believe it? And it was so easy to do. You could make one of these in every color, every print. You could have so many awesome, easy to make summer dresses just like that. You can see we have our beautiful gathers on this dress. We have our darts on the side, we have our darts on the back, and then we have our beautiful bias-faced armhole and neckline. The finishing details are beautiful but simple. This is such a great beginner pattern drafting project. It was so easy to do. We switched up the neckline and we changed the dart, and you can change the neckline however you like. Deeper, higher, V, boat, whatever you want. And you can move the darts wherever you like too, depending on your style preference. That's the great thing about designing your own wardrobe. You can make it you, exactly how you want it to look and fit. You could make this dress out of bright red and yellow polka dots, or you could just make a simple navy blue dress as well. The options are endless when you're designing your own wardrobe. And if you're like me, you're gonna go for a really fun, bold print. And if you've made it this far, from taking measurements to pattern drafting your sloper to fittings to designing a dress, congratulations, you are on your way to pattern drafting your own wardrobe. And I know that is such an exciting, rewarding feeling. So congratulations, and make sure you send me pictures because I would love to see the clothes that you're designing, and tag me at @SewAnastasia because I would love to share them with everyone else and keep everyone else inspired and creative in sewing and designing. Thanks so much for watching Sewing Anastasia today. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, give it some applause, and leave a comment down below. And don't forget to make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when all the new videos come out. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for watching and following along on my sewing adventures. And don't forget to add me on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and Twitter, and there's some other social media websites out there. I'm always posting new, fun fashion, design, and sewing content. And if you're in Chicago, I teach sewing classes in my design studio. And if you're not in Chicago, that's okay too, because I teach virtual sewing lessons. So make sure you check those out at SewingAnastasia.com. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.